Merry holiday muss, everybody here. This is the Anime Misfit, and welcome to another episode of the Community Corner podcast. I flipped that up for the first time in a row. It's CCP, y'all. With me, Shannen, the Anime Misfit, the host with the boast that ate ham with the little pineapple sticks on top. It was really weird. Don't put wood in your mouth, y'all. Joining me as always is my commenter of Crescents, the wolf among us, the man who still owes me 32 bagels. It's been a week. It's Lamp, y'all.
I had baked chicken for Thanksgiving, thank you.
And joining us today to round out this year of hoopla, the other half to the Jack and Core, it is Core, y'all.
Hello.
So what do you have for Thanksgiving, if you had Thanksgiving?
Unfortunately, I did not do too much in the way. I mean, I'd gone to visit my family a couple weeks prior, so any more traveling was kind of off the table. So I just chilled out at home. Spent most of it editing, actually. But that's, I think, just the YouTuber life.
Haven't we all? If it's not Minecraft, I've been editing in the whole. But today we're gonna think of more. Today's episode in general is gonna be on a more focused topic. Instead of talking about like AniTube as a whole, I thought we'd talk about the AniTuber's work in question, because Core here has a very special. Actually, before that, would you like to tell people who you are and where you come from?
Okay, my name's Kor, K-O-R. I've been doing anime YouTube videos since about 2014, doing like anime analysis, covering like everything from music, story, aesthetics, a lot of different things like that. This is like one of the series that is part of my channel. I've sort of come to have different, I guess, like center points of my content, different kind of similar formats that I come back to again. But that's essentially me in a nutshell. I don't know. I don't feel like I'm the most like exciting, but I always try and do something unique with my work.
I think you have a lot of good comprehensive stuff on your channel. I mean, you got both. You got the meme side with Jack and Core, and then you have a lot of comprehensive on your own side as well. Like, I really like your Beauty of Anime Shorts video a lot. Last time I watched that was like a month ago. So.
Oh yes, that's one of my personal favorites as well, actually.
It's really comprehensive, and it kind of makes you realize that, yeah, like, shorts are important. They're nice and experimental. But we're not talking about that today. To reiterate, today we're going to be talking about Core's specific work of his every anime reviewed series ever. I thought that this month we just kind of chill out with something more simple. Get back to like the AniTuber's roots. And since this is your most ambitious project, if I'm correct, over the past year, let's just jump right into it. Give us like your initial thoughts on the process.
All right.
Like, why did you do this?
Sure. So the project Every Anime Reviewed initially started. So there's a lot of context that I can give, and I guess I will, since it's going to be the subject, so might as well go in as in depth as possible. Even before I did it, something that is just a sort of hobby or something I find fun to do is I like trying to consume all of like something within a certain subset. It's part of the reason that I'm so fond of animation, and anime in particular, because you can sort of like catalog what you watch, and you get a sense that you are like completing a percentage of this entirety of a thing, of anime as an entirety. Because though anime is big, compared to other mediums, if you look at it on a broader scale, it's younger than a lot of other mediums, and it's much smaller. There's like, I think, if I remember right, there's like 12,000 anime on my anime list, which is a lot, but if you consider the fact that there's sequels and shorts and movies, music videos, it's really not that much compared to a lot of other things. It's actually, like, it is almost feasible to have like at least tried to watch every single anime that exists. So it's like already that kind of appeal of like me watching something is part of a bigger whole makes the viewing experience feel more valuable to me. and even within the field of anime, turning that into a smaller subset is something I find a lot of fun. Like, trying to watch everything from a single director or studio, which brings it to this like year. So, what had sparked this particular series was when I was doing I was preparing to do what's this 2019, I think. Yeah, I think it would have been before. No, year 2019. It was before I was preparing to do a series, Komovich, course 1 month of videos in January. There we go. I forgot my own acronym. I basically did a Mia Mafova in the vein of the kind of stuff series that like Best Guy Ever did, which he didn't really invent, but he sort of I feel like he sparked the trend of turning it into like a thing, like making a big deal about the fact that you're gonna post like daily for a full month and making a kind of like event out of it. So I wanted to experiment a bit more, and I ended up doing that month of daily videos. And I was looking for ideas, because I went through, when I did that month of daily videos, I went through almost every single idea or script I had laying around. Like everything I could have possibly used, I used for that month, because you don't realize how desperate you get when you're trying to do that much content in a row. Especially at the time, I had prepared some videos in advance, but about halfway through the month I had to go back to school because I was in college at the time. And I was talking with my friend Man Mode a little bit before, and he had mentioned offhandedly that he had this idea for a video where you go over all the anime in a season, but you do it several seasons ago. But he was or it might have been year, I can't remember specifically. But he was nah, I'll never make that, because if you don't know Man Mode, he does not upload very often. It's big projects, but very, very rarely. His last video was almost 2 years ago, I think, even if he is planning to make more.
It's very high quality stuff he does. It just takes a long time to do, understandably.
Yeah, and also he's lazy.
Was that some shade thrown there?
Oh, yes, he knows it. He knows it. I need him to get off his ass and make some more videos because I want to watch them. So he mentioned the idea, but he was kind of yeah, it's one of those things you say when you're I have this great idea, but it's never going to happen because it's too much work, kind of thing, which I think we all have.
Might I ask something that's kind of tangent? As an anti-tuber myself, I mean, that's the whole point we're on here anyway.
Yeah.
You get a lot of advice from other anti-tubers or just people in the comments about what you should be doing and the type of videos, and making the work balance between what you want to do and versus what you have to do for the channel. And regardless of the goal, if it's just to if it's to get bigger or just to continue to have a self-fulfilling hobby, how do you personally take the advice of someone else and decide, hey, I'm going to actually pursue that, or I'm just going to put it back in my think bubble? What's your thing about that?
So are you saying with regards to taking people's advice on growth and stuff, and how much you want
video ideas? Let's put it more on the focus on video ideas. Hey, you should make a video about Christopher Columbus, which came out in 1992.
Well, I guess I don't know that I really get many. Well, because I usually am making videos about things I'm passionate about. Because for me, the process of writing a video in itself is usually not that difficult. It's more just finding a subject that excites me enough that my the energy and juices start flowing. Because if I don't have that excitement, then it's really difficult to write something. But if I do, it's really, really easy. So I've asked for ideas, and I've done the classically ask your viewers what kind of videos would you like to see. But I've almost never used any of them, because most of the time I see them and I'm no, nothing. This doesn't excite me. I can't get excited about this, and that's I think the real key factor for me is it just needs to be something I can get excited about. because otherwise it's just not going to happen.
I get you, man, on that. I have a similar issue, like, especially when you're smaller. So like your pool of like comments or concerns are like smaller if anybody replies at all, which is nice that they reply in the beginning. But if your vibes are there, man, if your vibes aren't there, you're not gonna feel like up to do it. That's why I got so like flabbergasted when like you got such the energy to even tackle on this big ambitious project. How do you have the energy to like do that big thing?
So because part of the thing with this project in particular is it ended up being much bigger than anticipated. I mean, obviously, review every anime in a year. How would you think that's not a big project? But initially it was just do the season, because I did the series. This was like my daily videos thing I did in January, and I was gonna do the corresponding season. So the whole meme with the video was, instead of reviewing seasonal anime from this season, I'm gonna review seasonal anime from 30 years ago. It was 2019 instead 1989. That was kind of the like, I don't know, the idea behind it. So I formulated it kind of like a seasonal anime review, and the thing with that particular season was there was really not that much in the season. It was a pretty small season, which is part of what I also think makes the series a little more doable, because there's just less anime coming out in like the 80s and 90s compared to now. It's a little more realistic, even if it's big.
That's still like a lot of comprehensive seasons. Like 1989, you specifically started with, like, it had some bangers in there. Like, it had Dragon Ball Z, it had Rom the One Half, it had Kiki's Delivery Service. And
it definitely did. I think part of what caused it to blossom into something like bigger was like when I confirmed that I wanted to do more parts, because I really enjoyed how the first one came out. But even doing the first one, because I was working on it, and I had started working on it. I told Man Mode, I was like, by the way, Man Mode, I think it was like right before I started working on it. I told Man Mode, by the way, I'm stealing your idea because you said you're never gonna make it. I was like, well, I want to be I'm making him sound really stupid there for some reason. He was like, I want to like be a part of it too, or like help contribute, because he wanted to help me out because I was like doing this whole month. So like any help from people would be appreciated, since I was short on time. And so he contributed a few segments, which is what spawned the whole idea of me having guests in those videos, which I would not be able to do those videos without my like awesome guests. I really appreciate everybody who contributed and may contribute in the future. And so he offered to contribute, and then when he was working on it, he sent me a little like short clip of what he was working on, because he was happy with it. I watched the clip, and it was like really, really well done. Like there was a little animation of the text coming on screen that he did himself, and like everything about it was like top tier. I was like, fuck, man, now I actually have to put effort into this video. Because I was expecting to just blaze through this project pretty quickly and do short, not too much editing and stuff. But like seeing what he was putting into it made me like feel like necessitated to put a lot more effort into it. And that, I think, sparked the sort of fun, competitive desire to use it as a like platform with which to experiment and try different things, and all of that.
You and me both know that, Man Mode.
That's what makes me have the willpower to do it. It is the fact that like it lets me experiment and try different things and just play around and sort of have fun. I can do things in there that I might not have been fully like comfortable, or maybe like feel like would turn out super well if it was in the context of its own video, but because it's just one segment of like 20 or 30, there's more room for failure, I guess.
You and me both know when Man Mode doesn't edit, you kind of be like, you gotta shape it up, or to match his quality. Cause man, I'm gonna throw some shade as well. Man Mode, you are expensive, but you are worth the expense. Oh, I had so much fun on the video he made for me, but goddamn, it didn't get me. The topic was so obscure. But It's just, yeah, I feel like I feel you, man, on that. It's just like it takes a lot of thing. I like when it has like some kind of pushing force to kind of help you motivate yourself. I completely understand. Half of my motivation would not be around if I didn't have Lamp here.
Aw,
You're only,
I'm flattered.
you're only getting
I-
one this video.
I wholly.
Well, editing for this channel has given me more purpose and encouragement than I thought I would ever find, so thank you for allowing me to do so as well.
I honestly I wholly agree with that. Because I'm very much the same way in that like I grab a lot of my motivation and inspiration from the people around me. It's how I've always been. Like I'm much more productive when I surround myself with other people that are doing the same thing that I am. I just am more motivated when I surround myself with people that are passionate about something. Because I feel like when I'm just on my own, I'm much less motivated when I don't have something to look up, like something or someone to look up to and aspire to imitate. Which was kind of like, coming back to the videos, like that's a big part of like the guests I have on. Like everyone that I have like, on a guest as on my videos are people who like as individuals have content that I like really admire. And especially having people like Man Mode and Shaybs on and Jack on, like when I had them on, like all of them had a lot of things about their content that I wanted to like be able to replicate, and like I felt like it fostered like a fun sort of like competition because we were all trying to contribute something really creative and unique and, you know, good. So like that element as well, because we're all like next to each other, like you don't want to be the person in the video whose segments are like kind of boring or mediocre, right? Like you want to contribute something that's on the same level as your peers. At least that's how I've always felt, and what kind of motivates me to like improve my work.
I would say that like I think that your particular project with every anime reviewed, when it comes to like bringing others on, I think it's more like a nice hodgepodge than trying to go for cohesion. Like yeah, I do agree that like everybody kind of having this friendly competition to kind of keep each other in check with making the best damn content you can in your segment is great. But I also like sometimes seeing the hodgepodge of like about how people tackle an anime or what they tend to focus on. Like I wouldn't expect a Shaybs video and a Jack video to have the same type of cohesion.
Yeah.
Or it's like they're like putting them together is like it's like the scrubby soap in your kitchen. One's the soft side and one is obviously the abrasive side. That won't shut up about a sentence of a bookworm for like 2 videos. I just like it's in the similar vein. It's like also in the similar vein with Eden's videos about VTubers and how he brings different people on. Everyone has a very different taste and form and what they focus on, and that's what I kind of like. But I mean, of course, there's got to be like a baseline. Like you don't want your section to be complete dog shit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think the difference in like style and tone is something that is good and something I look for, because I mean, like these videos are long. Some of them are literally movie length, like an hour and a half. Like you could watch you could watch a Porco Rosso, or you can watch my fucking review video. So, yeah, we've got stiff competition. So though it can be difficult because obviously like I'm pretty selective with who I invite to be on the videos, and you know, there's only so many creators that also have the time to do something like that. A lot of people, especially in anime YouTube, I feel like are a little more inactive, just because of, you know, like school and other things. Because just the anime YouTube is less profitable, so there's not a lot of people that are in it full time. Most people are just doing it as a hobby, and if you're doing a hobby, a lot of these people are in school, are in college, have jobs and such, so they're pretty busy. So working within those limitations, though, I do try and have a pretty stark variety, mostly between channels that are, you know, more analytical and channels that are more comedic is the main balance I want to strike, because I want the video to be consistently engaging and surprising. I don't want it to just be like, oh, here's more of the same. constantly, because that gets boring really quickly. Like I want it to have some element of surprise.
Like if you're, for example, your every anime in 1989 fall video was if every minute of that video was like the Cambina effect, like it was straight analytical and stuff, it'd be well polished, but I'm like, it just kind of become oatmeal in your brain after about a good 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Not that it's bad, but it definitely needs a change in location. But speaking of 1989, let's since I would like to specifically talk about like the two years you've already covered so far. So with 1999, like since you did the 3 videos on four videos on that. There are 4 seasons, Shannen. Since you talked about like 1989, what was your best parts about doing that, about that whole year? What was your least favorite parts? Talk more about that in particular.
Favorite parts? So I think just have to refresh my memory a little bit, because kind of bleeds together. It's been so long ago now, because I mean, even for reference, like the last part came out 4 months ago, but I think I had finished all my stuff for that like two months before, because
according to your channel that I've been stalking for the past 30, you have all 4 seasons for that year.
Yeah, that's fully covered. I would say, like, do you mean like best part as in like just the best actual like segment, or best video, or like best part of the experience?
The segment and the experience. Like, what was your favorite parts of like in the making of it? Like the best experience about which video cohesively was your favorite?
I think Fall I'm rather fond of, just because it really was the ending of like a big project. It was the first time like saying goodbye to this entire conclusion was a really like striking kind of experience, because it was 4 hours of content that I had been making over the course of literally like over a year to complete. And so like even in this video in particular, like it's an hour and 40 minutes. About an hour of that is all made by me. 40 minutes is about how much my guests put together. So having that, and having the whole conclusion where sort of man mode parts ways from the series, made it, I think, some of my favorites. And I think some of my favorite written segments are also in that, because I think with each progressive segment, I've like sort of taken notes and tried to make my presentation and my like approach and everything better continuously as it continues. I'm also rather fond of the summer video, because I just think like the Shaybs, Caribou-kun's contributions, all of his segments are really like fantastic. In terms of least favorite, it's hard to say, because like this is part of the thing with the series, and part of the reason that it's like it's both like in the process of making it, it can be really exhausting, especially when you reach like the halfway point or so, because you have to write so much. And when you start reaching the like you're almost done, but you're like, I still have to talk about like 3 anime that I don't give a shit about, that I thought were boring, and I have to somehow come up with an interesting way to talk about them, which is both like the best part and the worst part, because it forces you to be creative, but also that's a big challenge, especially after you're like tired from working on talking about so many other things.
Yeah, you kind of just put when you have a certain show you want to watch that you have to review, and you're kind of like in the writing phase, and then you get fatigued because when you're being like in the back of your mind, I don't want to fucking write about this. I'm not passionate about it.
Yeah, exactly. But you have to find some way to cover it that's interesting. So it's like watching back through some of the parts, and it's been a while, because usually when I finish it, I have to watch. After working on it for so long, I don't really want to rewatch it, because I'll have to watch it. I'll have to watch back through the whole thing with all the guest segments when I decide the order of the segments, since that's something I like put some thought into, like how the segments flow between each other, because I don't just drop them in randomly. And then I usually rewatch it when the video premieres. So I'll have seen the video many times over, as well as having made most of it. So I don't think I'll be rewatching those videos for probably another couple years. But watching them back as they premiere, it's always kind of like, part of it is like, I'm happy that it's finally out, especially if people, find like my jokes funny or enjoy some of my segments. That's really satisfying. But I always I'm like, oh, I was lazy here. I didn't really care about this one, and I kind of half-assed it. And it's always that feeling of like, there's always parts of the videos that I am really dissatisfied with, which again is like, feels bad, but then is also motivating to be like, okay, I want I want to have less segments like that in the next part. So it's ultimately, I'd say it's like a constant kind of mix of like a bit of bittersweetness to it, which I think just comes with taking on a big project like this. You're always gonna be dissatisfied with something about it, because if it's like a smaller, less consequential type of thing, like if certain things don't turn out great, you're like, whatever, like I didn't spend that long on it. But when you spend months on a project and there's things about it you're dissatisfied with, it's much more frustrating.
I think that's the struggle of every creator, though. Like, I think more than, I guess, just myself included, but like big projects that turn out sometimes to be like, not even if you end up like, oftentimes when people like what you don't like, or vice versa, it's also kind of annoying too. It's like, I did horrible at that. It was great, but I didn't like it. And it's like, but I mean, so it's always a perspective of like what the artist sees versus what the viewer sees, and how that could be so different. But at the same time, there's also situations where like, hey, you pour hours of work into a video, and then or like days, months of work, and then it's like not many views, no comments, no interaction. It's like, but I thought you guys wanted this, and then it always goes down. Like it's always so hard to predict, and sometimes it's not even, there's no closure. Sometimes that's even more annoying when you don't have answers to why.
Yeah. No, I definitely feel that. It's rather frustrating, especially that constant, the endless concept of how so often like the video you put a lot of effort into is the one that doesn't get as much recognition.
Or you spend a lot of money on it. That's another question.
Yeah.
Or then the video you spent like just 5 minutes, like, okay, here's the shitpost whatever video, and then it's like, oh, thousands of views. Excuse me? It's like all the work.
Like, seriously, I have no idea why the Sony Crunchyroll thing is popping. We put that together with no script, thinking it was just gonna get, because people didn't like Cow a lot. Well, it really depends on the topic. And then all of a sudden, it's like, it's one of our best viewing videos right now. Why? Why, algorithm? Why? And, it frustrates me so much.
Yeah.
It does.
No, I feel that.
So,
I mean,
like,
I guess, like, fortunately, the 89 is not so much, it doesn't fall quite as much into, like, passion project, but no one, doesn't get much views. It's not like it is popping off in the algorithm or anything. I mean, it's, like, negative algorithm, I feel like, in terms of, like, the video. And I don't even try and, each video is just titled Every Anime in X Year Reviewed Part 1, 2, 3, 4. Like, I kind of, I don't know. Usually I'm the type of person that, like, I know some people are very anti, like, appealing to YouTube. I'm not like that. I try and I feel like there's always a way that you can brand something to reach the audience that you want to have. And you just have to keep experimenting and trying. And so I usually do. But with that particular series, I kind of take some weird pride in not trying to, like, excessively brand it, because for me, a big part of the reason I make the video is just because I love, like, retrospective videos that just go over, like, a ton of shit. Like, those are some of my favorite content that just, like, go over everything in a certain subset. They're just so fascinating to watch for me. So the idea of this video existing, when I was thinking about making the video, I was like, this is exactly the type of video I would want to watch, which is how a lot of my channel started. It's like just making videos that I would like to see, and like no one else is gonna do it but me, and I would want this to exist. So, And I think that title alone is like, if you are interested in that, you will, immediately by such a simple kind of branding. And so they get pretty consistent views, because I think there's like, a decent amount of people that are just as like interested in this idea as I am, which makes me happy, that people sort of appreciate the project.
It like, unlike the closest thing I say that the anime, every anime review, that's not a mouthful now. Every anime, I'm gonna call it ear. I'm gonna call it ear, because that's what the closest project ear reminds me of is Shaybs is Mecha Dead series, but like more segmented. I guess it's because of like the transitions and like how, not really it's like what point it's trying to tell, because god dang, Shaybs' video went from talking about certain animes to like the culture of it, and it got real deep after like the 1 hour mark. But when it came to like the 1989 series, I feel like it was it's like comparing the 1989 four parts to like your part 1 of 1992. It does seem like a very like, it seems like that by the 1992 video, it was much more experience. So before I forget that there's another year you started, what about 1992? What have you learned from the 1989 videos that you're applying to now?
So I'd say that generally there's a lot of things that I'm just constantly improving in terms of structure. The older videos were mostly me. But with 1992, it's the I think the first video. Yeah, it's the first video that's actually fully half guessed. Like 50%. Well, I think like in terms of duration, I might have more, a little bit more, maybe. I'm not sure. I didn't do the calculations. But in terms of segments, like half of the segments in the video are guest segments, and half of them are my segments. Like it's a 50-50 split. So the way that the video is presented is constantly, segment by me, segment by a guest, and it goes back and forth, which I think is something that I want to maintain in the future if I can, get enough guests for it, because it makes it much more fun, constantly jumping around between different people. So there's that element. Again, I feel like it's less like there's no like big jumps, but it's more like a iterative process of trying to improve with like my segments and stuff. Like if you compare like the first part of Winter to this part 1 of 92, you'll notice like, I use my camera quite a bit in this video. There's way more comedy in my writing than there was a year ago. Like that's something, that's probably the biggest change that I've made over the course of the past like 6 months to a year, is that I've just gradually been integrating a lot more comedy, because it's like it's something that I was never really too experienced in. I never did a lot, but was always liked, but I never really felt confident enough in my skills to actually integrate into my videos. And it was only through like slowly starting to experiment with doing it in like side channels and stuff. Like I had like a shitpost channel that I would post some like more experimental kind of comedy videos to for a bit, and getting some positive reception from my friends that gave me enough confidence to slowly start integrating it into my videos. And I think that's something that makes a big difference, especially in analytical videos, because when you're just dry talking about a subject, it can get boring. It can get boring. People only have so much attention span. Like it's interesting to hear analytical talk, but you need something to switch things up.
Why is there always like a certain tone with analytical content? I mean, I'm not jiving hatefully to it. I'm just always like, there's always this like encyclopedia, like very I know it's academic, but it's like there's always a certain tone that an analytical video tries to talk about. Like I see it sometimes where the analytical content is more spirited or more excited when they speak, but some of the really good shit is so tonally similar.
I think it's it's a lot of people taking inspiration. I think it's like a mix of like certain types of people are just the types of people that will be like analytical, like there are just certain like personality types that are the types of people that would want to make analytical content. And those tend to be more, you know, sort of serious and academic, I guess, in their kind of presentation and verbiage. So I think that's a big part of it. And also, like, people just taking inspiration from a lot of the same people. Like, a lot of analysis channels you see either directly or indirectly took a big part of their sort of writing and presentation style from Every Frame of Painting. In terms of anime, a lot of analysis channels took a lot of notes from, like, from Super Eye Patch Wolf and Digibro. Like, those are huge sort of influences on the, I'd say, the general style of analysis.
I keep bringing back to the Cambina effect because he's the one I know a lot about.
Canepa effect?
Canepa about, like, you know, industry and frames at large. So that's who I think about the most, and I think of analytical. Not to say it is bad, or to say that the tonal fluidity, the total similarity is bad. I'm not trying to say that, people. I'm just like, it's something I just notice. Like, it's not like with comedic videos where everybody has a different sense of comedy. So some people take the more dry humor effect versus the edgier humor versus the more silly humor or the bizarre humor. It's not like different flavors of the same type of ethos. It's like analytical content is, it seems to like there's like a certain few directions it takes, and it's just something I noticed. But that's there or now, but not here. But going back on topic, let me ask you a real saucy question concerning specifically the 1992 video. Was there anyone's hot take was there anyone's hot take in the video that you had a stark opinion about? Not like a bad opinion, it could be like, but like a really different opinion from, like, it doesn't have to be bad.
I don't know that I can say there was anything in particular in terms of like my guest segments. Partially because, like, I mean, obviously, like, I already have, I don't watch the anime that my guests do segments for. The whole point of getting them is to save me time.
Right.
And this was one of the a little more unfortunate things with this particular part, because there's a lot of really fantastic anime in the year 1992. But especially in terms of the 2 seasons that are covered in part 1 and the anime in particular I ended up covering, I didn't get many shows that I thought were really like exciting or interesting. I think it was just kind of like that one was just like, you know, when you're taking the chance and you're trying out all these random things, that's part of the fun of the video, but also, you know, is a risk that you might be let down, obviously. I mean, so there wasn't really a whole lot that I was super excited by to like a great degree. So I can't say that there was anything in particular that like I like disagreed with, or that, you know, I would have seen to be able to disagree with too strongly. Most of the stuff that like people had hot takes about, or I don't even know if I would call them hot, but like I either wasn't familiar with it or like based on their description seemed pretty reasonable to me.
All right, a follow-up question then. Because you haven't seen a lot of the series, you know, do save time, hence the nature of the video. Who was, like, can you, like, is there anything from that particular video that you may remember off the top of your head that really stuck out to you as just a viewer from, like, seeing these people's different perspectives of anime? Was there anyone that stood out to you as, like, that interesting, that made you want to go see the series or something like that?
Well, I think, like, one of the most interesting ones to me, I'd say there's like probably 3 segments in particular that stood out to me. The first of the one is Metahulk segment, which is on Ramayan, which is like based on this very sort of culturally important, famous, like religious mythological text. It's very like important culturally. So the fact that it has like this, you know, anime adaptation that's like a co-production between India and Japan is really interesting. And this one I actually had seen because it was originally on my list. And I had watched it with a friend, and it's a long movie, and I found it pretty boring. I didn't care for it. And I was like, I want to do this justice because I feel like it's pretty important. but I really didn't enjoy the experience. And then it occurred to me that I have a friend, Metahulk, who is Indian and might actually have some memory of this because from what I had found, a lot of people were pretty familiar with this from their childhood. So I asked him if he had heard of it, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I've seen that as a kid." And I asked him if he'd be interested in covering it, and so I really enjoy that segment because I feel like he brings a lot of like knowledge and information and understanding of the culture and the background that like would not be there if it wasn't him, which is one of the reasons like having the guests on is so much fun. So that would be my number one. But obviously I've seen that one. But if we're talking about like anime I haven't seen, Eden segment on what is it called? It's the romance anime that
with the girl with the kimono.
Video Girl I. That's what it is. Video Girl I.
I've heard of that. I think.
Yeah, but like I think Eden segments in general are really really good, and especially this video in particular, we just ended up having more sort of traditionally analytical guests on, just because that was kind of the people that were available. And so like having his, very high energy kind of presentation and approach really, I think stands out from everyone else, and which is a good thing. And I really liked that particular segment because, the other ones are funny, but he's, their anime he thought was pretty bad, so he's sort of just memeing around and shitting on them. They're fun to watch, but this one in particular, like he sort of sells his whole sort of journey with the show and why he came to enjoy it so much and appreciate it. What about it that like sort of grabbed him? So I really appreciate that perspective to things. I think that's definitely one of my favorites.
All right. So considering that 1992 is only in part one, what is your I guess I haven't, again, this one I haven't watched in a minute. So I would like to ask with this, what's your structure for part two without giving away too many spoilers, obviously, but like, do you have a game plan for part two?
I do. I mean, it's pretty much, same old. I feel like just with every consecutive part, it gets more sort of the process gets more refined. Like I constantly feel like I'm sort of refining the format of how I execute it, how I get my guests and communicate with them, and how we schedule everything and plot out the anime. Everything I feel like is just continually like I'm whittling down all the rough edges. And so this next part, I think there's a lot of great things in it that will be exciting to talk about. I have a lot of guests that I'm excited to have on. I do have a returning guest, which will be very, very, very exciting. I think this might be my first returning guest. I think actually, if we exclude Man Mode being in 1989 because he was in every part, it was kind of like a joint project in that way. But in terms of like just my standard like rotation of guests, I think this will be my first returning one. If I'm pretty sure. So that'll be exciting. And I have quite a few guests. I have some bigger guests, some smaller guests, which is always fun having this big variety where I can spotlight some smaller creators and have contributions from bigger ones as well. It's just generally really enjoyable for me to have that diversity. As someone that has been in like anime YouTube for quite a while and is lucky to be able to know personally a lot of the people in the community.
Let me ask, I think I didn't ask the obvious question because I've been looking at the videos. Or maybe I asked it before, but you can tell me if I did. Why did you choose 1889 and 1992? Well, I mean, I think you told me the reason for 1889. Why these two first? I know you could have started in order, or maybe they were specifically your favorites, but why these 2 years? And what would be your next year? I know that's going far ahead, but
so the original reason for 89 was, I think it was just kind of like an offhanded, oh, this would be neat to do, because I think was there a particular? I feel like there was a particular thing that got the conversation about 89 started, if I remember right. Sorry,
You said,
I'm
but
stumbling over my words a little bit there.
You said earlier, if I may, you said earlier in 2019 that you wanted to simulate the seasonal anime format video style by doing 1989.
Yeah.
So I was wondering, was there more to that, or just to take on the meme?
I think it was mostly just that. Like, I think Manmode had said, like, oh, it'd be cool to do, like, a date that, like, is, like, a nice number. So, 89 is, you know, that was exactly 30 years before, you know, the date. Like, because it was, like, 1989, you know, 30 years ago precisely. It's, like, a kind of nice even number, which I think was the main thing. And I think Manmode had looked at the year prior and been like, oh wow, there's some like real bangers in this year, that's pretty cool. So that was part of it. The biggest sort of reason for me choosing what years to cover generally does come down to what anime are in it, because obviously like we're jumping into these things mostly blind. But I, as someone that's been around anime for a while now, I have a general sense for anime that have, you know, some acclaim or are well known, even if I haven't seen them. If you talk about an anime that it has any type of sort of recognition or discussion around it, or sort of critical acclaim, there's a pretty good chance I've probably heard of it or know of it, even if I haven't seen it myself, just from being sort of around anime for so long. So like a big part of choosing like 1992, for example, was going through and trying to find a good mix between things that are really acclaimed and well known and that, you know, people will be interested in, and that look like they are genuinely good, and also the stuff that's like totally like a total shot in the dark, so that I know that when I'm making the video, when I go to make the video, there's a pretty good chance that it's not just gonna be us talking about how it's not just gonna be an hour and a half of us being like, yeah, this was pretty mediocre and this was pretty lame and this was pretty boring. Like I want there to be stuff that we're excited about, because I think that's part of what makes the videos fun. So I specifically try and pick years that I think will have a decent ratio. Granted, I'm thinking, if I keep this going for a while, it would be fun to try and like get through most of the 80s and 90s, because I don't have much interest in covering 2000s and beyond, just because the number of anime is unreasonable to cover in that kind of format.
What about like the stuff like in the 70s and the 60s, or like the first anime?
Yeah, I mean, part of it is I've already talked about some of them in other videos, so I'd kind of be retreading ground. Though I guess that's inevitable with that kind of series. That'll happen one way or another. Those would be fun to cover. Doing like I've considered it, but the thing with the 60s is there's so, and the 70s also to a decent extent, there's so few anime that you'd have to figure out a way to condense it for sure, and a lot of them are really, really long, and so it's like, I don't think doing our regular format, which is, if you don't know, for most of the videos, some of the anime we'll watch all of. Usually, if it's an OVA, if it's a movie, we'll watch the whole thing. But if it's a longer TV series, most of the time, some of the time we finish them, but most of the time we're only going to watch the first maybe like 3 to 10 episodes of the series. So in that way, it's kind of got that seasonal review kind of element of it's a little more, it's not as, you know, we're not giving a full review. It's more of like a first impression. So you can get an idea of what it's like and make like a decision on whether or not you think it's interesting enough to check out yourself.
Does that include sequels?
We usually exclude sequels unless it's something that like someone else wants to talk about, or if it's like really notable. Because I feel like you can just bunch the sequel into like like if I ever get to covering the year the first season came out, then that'll cover the whole thing as a unit, unless it's really, really notable. Like Urban did talk about Dragon Ball Z in the segment that he was on, because I thought that was notable enough to, be covered. But otherwise, I usually leave them out because it's like too much extra time to consider. Because then you would have to watch the entire first season to watch the second season. Like, that's just too much, especially if you don't like the first season. I kind of lost my train of thought a little bit there, but
it's all right. We're getting close to time anyway, because it's amazing how we can get so much out of such a big series of collaboration, camaraderie, and non-condiment related anime stuff. I was basically trying to be sentimental by saying that I don't know about everybody else, but I appreciate your series, and
thank you.
How much it really kind of touches lots of anime. It shows that, like, regardless of like the number next to our names in terms of subscribers, if our passion is there to talk about the anime, it's there. I like the fact that your series kind of proves that, like, if you have a really big goal, it can be tackled. It just takes the drive, the motivation, and I really appreciate and look up to some people like you, Core, who do that type of thing. That's my real sentimental spiel of it, but keeping things mystical and bizarre is still on brand.
I will. I mean, I guess my word would be, if you have a big idea, go for it. Start, try, and it won't be done until you start working on it, and you might be able to get it completed once you do.
So now that we've come towards the end of the episode, please tell the audience where they can find you, what you're currently up to besides the big project that has already been named Ear is now what I'm calling it. It is now my I am crediting that.
So you can find me on YouTube, Core KOR. Also, I think my channel URL is still Core Reviews.
No, it's Core Stoneward. It's Core
I think
Stone Sword.
I think that's like my /U. If you do /C, it's Core Reviews. Because I got a custom URL back when they added that, like a couple years ago. On Twitter, it's at Core Reviews as well. I also stream pretty probably 3 to 4 times a week. Twitch.tv/Core's name is too short. Playing games and just chatting and working on art and other things. Do a lot of different stuff there. And I also, of course, have a second channel with Jackisboy, where we do anime commentaries and other sort of meme funny videos. Very different from my content, but I think that's like part of the fun of doing it. Jack and Core. I think that's about everything.
All right. Now, I guess I should do this properly for once, because it's the end of the year. And I want to say this because, it's the last. So this particular podcast has been a big goal in myself. Speaking of like big goals, at the beginning of the year and at the start of this whole podcast project, I was very scared. I would say I'm more of an extroverted person than the average anti-tuber, as I could say a lot of random things without with reckless abandon. But it still was kind of a bumpy road, just getting the self-confidence to ask people, getting into the community, talking to everybody, and like treating them as both people, obviously, and the anti-tubers that they are. And I appreciate the series for allowing me to be able to meet all these beautiful people and the different mindsets that they have. And with everything coming towards the holidays, because this will be the holiday recording. Aging this video already. I just want to say I would like to thank Core for being on. I would like to thank Lamp for always being here in the background, somewhere in the background.
I may not speak much, but I lurk menacingly.
And I seriously thank everybody who watches, even if the video gets less than 100 views. It's still very nice that people do see our content. It makes me feel like I exist in this world and that I am not just a waste of space as a 26-year-old. But like the video, comment on the video if you're still here. If you're still here, comment the phrase corporate entrapants. Corporate entrapants. Yes, that's the first thing that came to mind.
Be sure to smash that MF and bell.
Yeah, smash it, MF and bell, and tip your waitresses, because that might be the last time I say that before the end of the year of this podcast. But anyway, it's been the CCP podcast and everything else. Sign us off, Lamp. Goodbye.
Bye. See you all wonderful people later.